What's up, guys? Welcome back to Let's Play Ratchet and Clank HD! Sorry it's been a few days since the last upload. I was doing some more boss row recordings and I had to conserve some of my hard drive space, so I gotta be careful how much of this I upload at a time. So we're moving on to planet Aridia, which is a really cool looking planet aesthetically. I really like the look of everything here. It really kind of establishes the art style this game is going for. And it's very unique, and the franchise became known for this sort of, you know, cartoon meets sci-fi sort of aesthetic, and I really like it. There's nothing new to buy at the Gatatron vending machine this time around. We bought the blaster last time, and I think it's only available in Metropolis. I don't think it's available here anyway.
From the infobot.
In the flesh, little dude. You guys get a load of that epic space battle I was in?
We saw you, screaming for help.
That was like a war cry. My agent and I got ambushed on the way to hoverboard practice.
Did he survive the crash, sir?
He's okay, but I've had a little trouble getting back to my ship due to my sprained ankle.
Oh, come on.
If you can take out all the sand sharks, I just might have a spare hoverboard for you.
We'd love to help you, Mr. McMarks, but Ratchet and I need to find Captain...
One of your boards? I've always wanted a decent hoverboard. Well, alright. You just keep that foot elevated.
Well, this was the early 2000s, and literally every single kid I knew was into skateboarding, so this character stereotype makes perfect sense. He certainly is a lot taller than Ratchet. I wonder if this difference in scale will be at all relevant to the future games. Anyway, we have to go against some sand sharks here. There's quite a few of them we have to kill. And in addition to the sand sharks themselves, which are single one-hit enemies that burrow themselves in the sand and are actually kind of quick and difficult to dodge at this point in the game. I thought that was unbreakable there. There are also these dispensers that will spawn more of them. So if you don't kill the dispensers, more of them will just spawn in. But they only spawn in the areas that they exist in, so they can't, like, for instance, these guys can't leave this island over here. But if I didn't kill the dispenser, it would just keep dispensing them over and over again until I eventually killed it. But that's, like I said earlier, in Metropolis with the dispensers for those Robo-Mutt things, it's really not a good idea to use that to grind for bolts, because the more of them spawn from the same source, the fewer bolts you'll get. There's a bombable wall right here. Say that fast 3 times. You can go back here and get another gold bolt. When I first played the game, I had no idea how to get back here, because I saw the gold bolt through the grate there. I'm like, how the hell do you get that? And then I realized, you know, there's a wall you can bomb out here. It's almost like we're playing Zelda or something, except not really. Anyway, I kind of had to stop halfway with what I was saying because I was letting that cutscene play. But if you have, if you go to, only certain weapons become available after certain planets at the Gatatron vending machine. I'm going to skip past these guys right here and take out the dispensers up top, because that's where these guys came from, the guys that just landed there in the sand. But when I said it's only available in Metropolis, I mean, as far as I know, as far as I remember correctly, it becomes unlocked once you go there. But if you didn't buy it there, you can still buy it here. Every Gatatron vendor will allow you to buy the same ammo and weapons once they become unlocked. But you'll only be able to purchase them once you've gone to the planet that unlocks them, if that makes sense. So wrench is still good against these things. I think the dispensers are 2 or 3 hit enemies, which is kind of unique considering that most of the other dispensers in this game are 1-hit enemies. Yeah, we're down to 40 of these sand sharks, which still sounds like such a lot compared to the majority of the encounters we have. At least we're not fighting them all at once. The Processor is so good against them, though, for clearing out these big hordes. The only problem is when you're firing it, your ability to turn left and right is really decreased, so you can't really sweep it as fast as you would need to clear out all these guys. You really got to be careful. So you'll see me like lay off a little bit and duck back around. That's to avoid me taking a hit. Like the guys behind me there, I see how I took a hit there because he got too close to me and I couldn't spin around fast enough. So you can't really just lay on the Processor and spin around in circles, because you'll still take hits eventually if you're not careful. That's a shortcoming of this game's controls, but it's something they fix later on in the franchise. And with this goo right here, if you land in that, you can jump out twice. But if you, let's say you land in it and you're trying to like jump your way back to shore, if you are in it, if you jump in there 3 times, you'll die. You'll sink in. You won't be able to jump your way back out again. Alright, this is the last 6. 2 left. 1 left. Come here.
Here, man. Catch.
A brand new Z3000. You can't even buy these.
Well, I got a bail. Catch you dudes at the hoverboard races.
You've just acquired a Gadgetron Z.
Well, hey, Ratchet, it's 2015. Everybody should have a hoverboard, right?
The racetrack in Blackwater
Right.
City on Clank Road on-
Alright, so what that will allow us to do is enter hoverboard races on planets later in the game. That's a mini game that we'll explain much more about when we get to that point. I definitely wanted to skip going down the way that the game intends you to go down up there in favor of jumping back down here and getting these bolts, because that was quite a lot of bolts and I needed them desperately. Yeah, we won't be spending any money really on this planet at all. I shouldn't even need to buy ammo. So we will just be profiting from this planet immensely. This is going to be a good grinding planet to build up our cash from. So this is that rocket they crashed in. It's pretty impressive if you ask me. It's huge. Like if you turn your camera to actually look at it, it's a big, big rocket. You could see it from where we landed. We literally landed right at the crash site. This building here, this refinery, the location we're actually at is called Outpost 13, I believe. That's the location that we're at on planet Aridia here. So we don't actually need to go back and talk to Skid because he met us up there. So we don't actually have to go back to where his pod landed because there's nothing for us to do there anymore. There's another new enemy type here. These guys can take 3 hits. I can't remember what they're called. But they also have a little flamethrower. They're a bit dangerous. I'm going to see if I can take out all these sand sharks with 1 bomb. I completely failed at that. But yeah, you can hit these guys with 1 bomb and finish them off with the blaster or wrench, whatever you want to do. If you use, it's another example of what I was talking about with the blaster and how if you fire the blaster at these guys, because the blaster shots, you're firing so many of them and they deal less than a single, what the equivalent of a single wrench hit worth of damage would be, the enemy does not take the, wow, I dove right into that. And it's normally really easy to dodge their flamethrower attacks. But yeah, you skip the enemy's flinching animation there. There we go. You can also just Comet Strike these guys and do... you can multi-strike these guys and with the 3 hits you'll kill them, and it's quite amusing to hear their sound effects there. Despite the fact that they also use a flamethrower, they're not immune to the Porositor, although it's not exactly the best weapon to use against them because, as I've said before, there's no reason to use the Porositor against a 2-hit enemy. Yeah, a lot of those breakables blend into the scenery behind you there, so you can't always see where they are. And honestly, that's the majority of the fighting in this level. We pretty much are done with it. There's going to be a few enemies along the way here, but I'm actually going to go off the beaten path here. This is the primary reason why I needed to go to Metropolis first. I didn't care if I had the blaster first, but what I cared about is having the swing shot, because now I can go off the beaten path here and get another gadget. So again, this game works very much like a lot of adventure games work, to where you have to have X item to get Y item to get Z item to let you do this thing that lets you do this thing, lets you do this thing. So it's a gradual progression type of thing, and even though the game is more open-ended than a lot of similar games, you still have to kind of do things in a certain order. So yeah, I had to, even though I could have gone here first, there's really no reason to, because I couldn't do everything here until I went to Metropolis. And there was nothing that you get here that you need in Metropolis. The only reason I'm really explaining all this is because the very first time I played the game, I did go to this planet first, and I had to go to Metropolis next, and then come back here to finish everything once I had the swing shot, which is very unproductive. Anyway, I normally can get through this area very fast on the swing shot if I'm not stopping to break all these boxes, because I want to stop and break all the boxes and get all the bolts, obviously, because that's what we do in this game. But yeah, you can actually go through this swing shot course very fast, and it's a lot of fun to do. Swing shot's one of the most fun things about this series, I feel like. The actual game mechanic is just a lot of fun. There we go. That's a better example of how you can do it really fast. You don't even have to be looking at the target. Alright, there's the item we need to get, but there's some rotating platforms beneath us here. And there's another gold bolt down there, so we're going to glide down here and grab it. And then use the swing shot again to get back up here. It's like you see that swing shot target, it's like, what's the point of that? There's no reason to need to swing back over there.
Yes.
And then you realize. Alright, so we got a new gadget. It's called the Trespasser. It's essentially a hacking tool where it brings up this laser grid right here, and we have to align all the lasers with the appropriate sockets on the wall, and it will open the door for us. So it's a pretty easy mini games. There's no time limit. You basically just have to fill around with the lasers until you get it right. Some of them later in the game can be pretty tricky and time-consuming, especially if you've never done them before, but obviously I know a lot of the patterns, so it shouldn't take me more than a few seconds to clear these things out on screen. But every Ratchet and Clank game has its own version of a hacking tool, and this is the version for the first game. It's the easiest of all of them, but it can be a little tedious. I don't really particularly care for these features. I don't think they're all that necessary. But again, it's one of those things where you need to have this item to get through this area. So I had to go, the one thing you will need from Aridia is that Trespasser, so you can, you can get through certain doors on other planets in the future that would be locked if you didn't come here and get this. So let's say you got all the way to the next planet, and the planet that you unlock from beating Metropolis, you would not be able to get through all the objectives in that planet without the Trespasser. So the game does insist that you do everything on every planet. But again, some of this stuff, there is some things that are completely optional, and I'll go into those. But most things are required, and most things are kind of required in a particular order. But it's never an order that's confusing, and I'll go into that. You know, in the later games too, it's the same thing. Obviously, the method that I'm choosing to go through all these things is the most efficient. But although you can sequence break the hell out of these things, like any game like this, you can sequence break them if you know what you're doing. But I'm not going to be doing anything like that. These guys down here, there's a lot of exploding crates next to them. I can kind of take advantage of that because they deal a lot of damage. Or I could just, you know, not, because they're not close enough. Even though this is technically a hazard, I do want to get all the bolts that are in these things. This was a mechanic I wasn't really familiar with at first, is that when you grab onto ledges like that, you see all the hand marks up there, you grab on the ledges and you can pull yourself up. That's part of the platforming mechanics. But you can also, that's essentially how ladders work in this game too, but you can shimmy along the side of the rail when you grab onto a ledge like that. So you can walk, I'll demonstrate it here, you shimmy along the side of the rail before you pull yourself up, because there's a wall in front of me. I need to get over here to be able to jump up there. And I think that is the first time in the game where we have to do something like that. And here's a ladder that works that same way. That's how ladders work in this game. Alright, we found Skid's agent.
No signal whatsoever. This downtime is killing me.
Do you need medical attention, sir?
Don't be so literal, son. The problem is I'm stranded on this backwater planet and my star client is nowhere to be found.
Hey, we saw you on that info bot. You're Skid's agent.
Was Skid's agent. Haven't seen him since our ship crashed. And an agent without a client is like a flea without a dog. Say, you look like an athletic kid. If you can bring back the championship prize from the hoverboard races in Blackwater City, I'll make you my next star.
We have no time for trivial matters, sir.
I could be the next Skid McMarks.
I love that line. He's like, do you need medical attention? I actually kind of side with Clank on this one. We don't have time for trivial matters, and I wish I didn't have to be bothered with the hoverboard races, but we'll get to that later. Oh, there's that giant missile launcher that we saw shooting at them in the cutscene there. You can actually watch that fire off missiles in the distance. It's a nice background detail. Anyway, we're done here, so we're going to move on to Planet Eudora, which is what we unlocked from going to Metropolis. We've done everything we can do here. We've gotten all the gold bolts. Except for one. We'll come back to that later.